What's up, HyperFast Nation? On this episode of the HyperFast Wealth Show, I sat down with not one, but two amazing guests. One of them has had a 9-figure exit from the company he founded. The other has gone on to raise hundreds of millions of dollars for tech companies, software companies, all sorts of fund. What's up, HyperFast Nation? On this episode of the HyperFast Wealth Show, I sat down with not one, but two amazing guests. One of them created a software enterprise company that he had a 9-figure exit from. That's right, 9 figures. The other gentleman has raised hundreds of millions of dollars for different types of companies. Welcome to the show, Christian Mack and Scott Ryan. Welcome to the show today, Scott and Christian, two guests. We usually get one, so it's nice to have two. How are you guys doing though?
Great.
Doing great. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, I'm excited. You know, we get a lot of real estate agents on this show, a lot of real estate investors, and you guys are in a different space. So I am excited to bring that to this audience. I know from some other things we've done recently. My audience the HyperFast audience seems to, love what you guys are doing. So why don't you take a minute though and introduce yourselves, a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are today.
Well, absolutely. I'll go first because Christian's story is much more compelling. I'm a tech guy by trade, 25 years in the tech space. I've had 3 exits. The latest one was a company called Architel. It was an 8-figure exit. In June of 2016. And then I pivoted into, I started making private equity investments, some of them smart, some of them not so smart. So I figured I'd spend some time and learn the space. So I went and got my securities licenses, which I'm a history major with a minor in economics and Spanish. So that was hard labor for me to get my securities exams. Did that and then started raising capital for clients. So in 2018 and 19, I raised about a little north of $100 million. And then the world stopped in 2020. And so I took a break and I met Christian in October of 2020 through a group called GoBundance, which is quite a few real estate investors, by and large, mostly real estate investors. But we started socializing what's called Lotus Fund 3. Go ahead, Christian.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so basically came from humble beginnings. My father is a Lutheran missionary, foreign and domestic. My mom is a retired, home ec teacher, and so basically grew up throughout the United States. Actually lived in Australia for 4 years. Went to was always pretty good at math. Was always kind of a combination of math was kind of my sweet spot, and then ultimately was also kind of an entrepreneur. So I remember raking leaves, shoveling snow. We never got an allowance. So it was always something where if you wanted to make money, you had to go out and do it. So that kind of translated into going to college. I got into the University of Chicago. I thought I wanted to become a math professor, but couldn't really necessarily pay for school with my parents' income. And so I had to take a full-time IT job to put myself through school. So I was going to school full-time, working full-time. In the IT department. Always loved computers as a result of shoveling snow and raking leaves and cutting people's grass. I was able to kind of cobble together enough money to pay for a computer back in high school, and was able to assemble it myself, and that was kind of neat. But when I went to college, I was one of the very few folks that actually had much experience with computers, and so that led to my first full-time job. And so I did that. I graded papers. I was a teacher's assistant to a math class, from a freshman year on. And I was on my way to get my PhD. And this was between 94 and 98. I like to joke around because back then, everyone thought the world was going to fall apart with Y2K. and I could spell IT, I was instantaneously being recruited like crazy. But I kind of had this trajectory going to become a PhD candidate, and instead of doing that, though, I realized I didn't really want to be a professor. That was definitely not my kind of skill set. And yeah, I realized very quickly I was going to be like 60 years old by the time I was going to have to pay off these student loans. And so I, became an enterprise IT consultant for about a year and a half. And then I realized very quickly that the government takes a lot of money out of your W-2 income. And so that was even going to be something that might be a little bit longer. And so I started my first company in 1999. And it was a company that I didn't have much money. I called up my parents. I remember this to this day, and I said, "Hey, this probably will go belly up, and if so, can I move back in with you guys?" And they said, "Sure." And so I kicked off the races. I called up a couple of folks that I figured I could train up, and said, "Hey, look, I can't really pay you much in terms of salary, but I can give you room and board." And I just bought a house, a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house. And we had 13 people living in a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house for about a year. And
Wow.
the objective really was, I would bill out during the day, as I would, basically get at the client site usually 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I would put in my 12 hours, 13 hours of billing time. I would come home and I would train up people. I would work on the website. I'd work on the business plan, work on coding the software that ultimately became our business, because we had to start out in the services arena, enterprise IT services arena, but we knew very quickly that billable time is great, but there's only so much billable time in the day, and really software was really where we wanted to end up. And so, we would do that, and I would literally fall asleep at my desk, and people would, come wake me up, and say, "Okay, Christian, you got to give up." And so I'd wake up, I wouldn't sleep very much, and we would do that Monday through, Saturday, and then Sunday we would recruit, and then we would take off half the day. So, and we did that for about a year, and the company just grew like crazy. And after a year, everyone, the company did extremely well. The first year, I think we did over $1 million in revenue. Second year, we did about 2.5. And by about that point, I said, "Okay, we're making decent money. Get the heck out of the house, right?" So basically, my neighbors loved me. I had 12 cars. It was fantastic. Outside, it was interesting. But yeah, that grew, continued to grow. It was definitely a roller coaster ride. I will say, and we learned things always the hard way. We didn't have any kind of mentorship. We had folks that were super, would hustle, would work really hard, but we never took on any kind of institutional capital, investment capital, and so, but we grew it organically, and we went from basically zero to, ultimately speaking, 50 million in revenue. And the company is still around today. Company's name is called Resolve, and ultimately we sold it in 2012 for a 9-figure exit, which was fantastic. And the people that started out with us did extremely well, which I'm so thankful for, and I did too. And at that point, I decided to start a family office, which basically to take the monies that we had received in that exit and look to diversify those assets. And we did that. But during that time, I started to talk to a bunch of other family offices, and it was interesting because I'm in Southern California, and a lot of the folks at the family office world in general, not just in Southern California, they're really real estate focused, and so not really technology focused. And so a lot of people would share deals with me surrounding technology opportunities, and quite frankly, 99% of them that I looked at, my reaction would be, I think you have better odds of, going to Vegas, and getting your money back than investing in these deals, because they're all like pre-revenue, and not even through the proof of concept phase. And so, that kind of spurred me to start writing down what ultimately was a 300-page methodology around, how to go from 0 to $1 million, how to go from 1 to 2.5 million, how to go from 2.5 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 50, because those are resistance points that I noticed along the way, that were a function of doing things, from best practice basis from a back office. so finance, HR, and IT, and then ultimately from a front office, so sales, business development, marketing, and then from a leadership basis. And so if you're not doing certain things, it's going to be very difficult for an enterprise software company to really, break through those glass ceilings. And so I wrote that, and then ultimately it became kind of an investment thesis, a playbook, if you will. By which we would identify great opportunities. Like in real estate, location is everything. In the enterprise software world, product is everything. And so if you can recognize a company that is, call it a $5 million company, not necessarily pre-revenue, that's not necessarily of interest, because that's the highest risk. If you're an enterprise software company, like 99% of enterprise software companies fail to reach $1 million in revenue. But there's a lot of companies out there that are above $1 million, but that are below a certain feeding frenzy. So they're too big for venture capital, but they're too small for traditional private equity companies. And so I thought, well, we have this playbook. Well, why don't we buy these companies that have hit kind of stagnated a little bit, right? They're still great companies. They've got great product. Just like location is everything in real estate, product is everything in enterprise software. So it's just that they're not necessarily doing, things correctly or best practice wise from a back office or front office basis, but we could help out in that. And so the thesis was, let's create a buyout growth firm whereby we can come in, we can implement our playbook. We have control, so we have 51% or more, and we'll help really grow these companies. And we'll take the founder, who more than likely is more of a CTO type, because they're really product focused, and allow them to really focus in on the product as like a CTO, and then we'll bring in a new leader that has been through the exit process before and can really kind of help really kind of supercharge the revenues and the profits as well. And do so. And we started Fund 1 in 2014. And again, from a real estate analogy basis, it's like identifying the best property, location wise, but it just needs a little bit of work, right? It needs some electrical work. It needs some plumbing from a back office basis. It needs some paint, landscaping done, maybe new appliances. That's more the front office analogy. And then once you're done through that, from a general contractor basis, you've created a lot of value. And in what we do, which is really exciting to me, is we create a lot of jobs in this process, right? We service a need that I believe there's a gap, whereby a lot of the private capital out there is really going way up north, meaning you have to be certain size before private equity really kind of pays attention. But there's a feeding frenzy of capital beyond it. Beyond, if you're an enterprise software company and really you're beyond 20 million in revenue and you're profitable, there's a lot of people that are very interested in talking to you, especially if you have a product in a specific segment. Right. And so, but before that, you got to get there, right? So, and then you have the big guys out there. They're always, they're innovating through acquisitions. And so, the area that I think we really serve is that space. And in doing so, I think we really help not only fill the gap from a capital basis, but also from an innovation basis as well. So that's something I'm really passionate about too. But as Scott mentioned, Fund 1 did really well, Fund 2 did really well, and then we're kind of off to the races on Fund 3. But that's my background.
It's an amazing story. I mean, just such humble beginnings to now raising hundreds of millions of dollars that you're going to inject into these companies and help them go through the process that you did. So it's really cool, like all the different people and lives that you are touching. Do you ever miss those days where it's like 14 of you in the house, and there must have been like such a camaraderie and just kind of we're gonna either all go down together or make it kind of big attitude?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because none of us had MBAs. I mean, we were let's see here, it was 99, so I was 23 years old. So had no idea what to expect, and so yes, definitely the camaraderie, but I would say that I think we were also very singularly focused on the mission, which was to help launch something and to create something that was great. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that we were able to do that. And so it's been wonderful. But no, I'm not. I don't miss those sleepless nights, where I only got like 1 or 2 hours sleep. It's, still working hard and all that stuff. But now, thankfully, I'm more up to like 6 hours of sleep a night. So, but I really enjoy what I do. I think it's something where this is something where we're making a big difference. We're doing something, really, great. And it's just a matter of kind of scaling out, what really was a proof of concept that just so happened to kind of fall into. It wasn't, I like to think of myself as a strategy guy, a process guy, but in reality, it's just this kid that really loved to read Computer Shopper back in the day. You may remember, Dan, you're probably too young, but there was these magazines that are about this thick, and you would flip through them, and you would buy your video card, you buy your motherboard, you buy your CPU, and you had to put all this together. And I would buy that magazine without having much money, and I would kind of conceptually put the pieces of a computer together. And today I like to think I'm kind of doing the same thing, just at a higher level. So
yeah, you're kind of like the your story reminds me of Elon Musk, like when he's sleeping on the factory at Tesla, and the things we don't know if it's going to work out yet or not, or no one really probably knew about it to the level that they do now, but that is part of his story. Like I think it was in the early 2000s, like sleeping on the factory of the Tesla, where they made.
Oh yeah. And the reason why, actually, it's kind of funny, the reason why I even decided to go down this path is I read back when I was 20, I think 22, maybe early 23, I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I never had much background in real estate, but I just knew that there was a tremendous demand in this IT space. And I thought, well, if I could become a business owner, then I think that this might change things. And it was true. So there was a lot of that book really changed my life for sure. Allowed me to kind of go down that path, because otherwise I'm pretty confident I would just stayed in the W-2 kind of consulting realm for a long time. I enjoyed that work, but I really felt like I really needed to do something much more significant in life.
I think Christian, just to jump in here for a minute, Christian's super humble. I mean, the reality is this, he's, when I joined this firm, as a partner in the family office, Terra Rosa, I met 5 other guys that were extremely competent from a operator execution perspective. But what I found with Christian is he's much more of a process guy. But he took that knowledge, right, the 50 Fortune 100 clients that they had at Resolve Systems, and he built an advisory board. So the secret sauce of Lotus Fund 1, 2, and 3, the reason we've had such incredible returns is the advisory board actually sources the hip pocket deals for us. So advisory board is made up of his clients. So AT&T, US Cellular, JP Morgan, Department of Defense, SAP, Oracle. The reason those companies innovate is they buy innovation. So they'll buy a product, right, that they'll like, and they'll say, hey, these guys are too small for us to purchase, but they need growth capital. Christian, can you inject growth capital and grow these companies up? And so what we do is we socialize that software to, if AT&T brings us the deal, we socialize it to SAP, Oracle, JP Morgan. And if they say, we will actually buy this product, we love this product, then we acquire the business. We're about to list one of our portfolio companies on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We've already socialized the product to the other companies in our technical advisory board. So we're able to proof software before we purchase the company. And that's because of what Christian did with Resolve. So he's building this process, this inherent value add. Not only do we find hip pocket deals, to use the real estate analogy, but our value add can triple EBITDA in a 6-month time frame. That's incredible. It makes our companies look like unicorns.
So these companies that are on your advisory board, they will consult you on what they like or don't like about these products. And then before you buy the company, like how many more clients or
we know that we're going to
build in.
We know that we're going to triple EBITDA before we buy the business. And now we've added a component. So normally we pay 2 times revenue for the companies, and we can sell them in the private sector, which is what we did in Fund 1 and 2, for about 7 to 8 times revenue, right? So that's how you can deliver a 2.5 times multiple on your money, right? Now we're going to list them in the public market.
And I mean, much like you have, when you look at a house that needs a lot of work, right? You got to have your electrician that, obviously they have certifications, right? You have your plumber has certifications, right? Licenses and all that stuff. And it's a lot of complicated work, and you have to hire specialists to do this stuff, maybe not so much painting, and landscaping, but you still need your business license. But it's that kind of thing, specialists, and this playbook is very specific, to what is ultimately the acquisition stage, then ultimately the integration stage and the restoration stage and growth and then exit. And those are the 5 different stages of a life cycle of an enterprise software company that then kind of, breaks down into what finance needs to do, within that stage, and so forth and so on. And,
Right.
it's a repeatable, scalable playbook. And people, there's a lot of specialists out there that are certified, in this, particular space. And, we leverage that and we train up, just like my first company. We train up people, to really kind of learn, the wherewithal and to do that, because it's not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. And then, going public is a whole nother, painful kind of process. But the good news is we've got that, that's kind of a recent kind of, process that we've learned. But even that, you can really kind of dial in. And if you start with the end in mind, a lot of that stuff you can do ahead of time so that it's not as painful, towards the tail end. So it's great.
Well, I think it's really rare, and I just want to point this out to the people listening, watching, that it's really rare for a founder to get something off the ground successfully. That's one specific skill set. But then to stay on and get it to where you did, that's a different kind of skill set altogether. Not everyone has both of those, right? And like some of the things that probably make you good at founding and that initial success, they probably actually hinder you, to get from 5 million to 100 million, or because it's just so different.
Yeah,
it's a really good point, Dan. And one of the things that we do, right? So what are we doing? From a downside risk mitigation perspective, we're buying companies that are 3 to 5 years old, right? They've got 5 to 10 Fortune 100 clients that they've sold to, right? So these are sticky 3 to 5 year contracts, right? It's a long-term play, and it's more expensive to rip and replace than it is to buy additional products from that company. So there's tremendous opportunity. They're just not in as many clients as like Resolve Systems it was potentially. That's what we bring to the table. But to your point, typically what's happened is these companies have been flat for the last 2 years. Like EBITDA has been steady, right? They've plateaued because, to your point, the business owner, the CEO, he's normally an innovator. He's a product developer, right? And so he knows how to develop product. So his skill set got him there. He has great product. What Christian makes an analogy towards location, like in real estate, it's a great location. It's a great software product, but he doesn't have the sales and marketing chops to go to the next level. So we always replace the CEO. So that's why we always replace the CEO, make the CEO a CTO to keep the established relationships, but then replace him with a new CEO that has a much bigger company experience level and go to the next level. Because to your point, you're exactly right. Going from 1 to 10 is a fundamentally different exercise than going from 10 to 100.
Well, and my guess is a lot of these people who are good at going from 1 to 10, it's because they were innovative. It's because they were good at doing a lot of the work.
Yeah.
And that probably actually hinders them from going to 10 to 100 because they need to learn how to delegate more, learn how to hire people with different specialties and expertise. And a lot of them, it's like their passion. They were on the couch,
right,
20-hour days, like Christian, like you used to be. And like, there's probably things that they should let go that they don't really want to. My guess is a lot of their identity gets tied up in that. Sure. And it, so ultimately it's cool that you guys have kind of created this process to help people make the jump that you did. And the founder still gets the benefit in a huge way from it.
Well, and the goal is hopefully that the founder also is coached up, right? From the various different, back, disciplines, right? So that they can then, they themselves, if they want to, absorb this information and be able to do it themselves again in the future, or so that these founders, once they have a successful exit and they're financially free, if they choose, like when I sold my business, I think I was retired for all of 3 minutes. It just I like golf, but I'm not very good at it, and it's something where I love this particular realm that we find ourselves in today. But But ultimately speaking, I think a lot of these founders, get to the point where even after they have enough money in the bank account, they want to come back and they want to help, other folks, right, to learn kind of similar, similar processes and mentorship. And you're absolutely right, Dan. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can imagine, someone who started an enterprise software company, let's call it $5 million in revenue, they have spent so much blood, sweat, and tears in creating it. It is their identity, and so it's really tough for them to let go. By the end of the day, you can only bash your head against a brick wall so often. You start looking around for help. There's Lotus. We're here to help. Here's how we can help, and you can learn a lot through that process, and that hopefully emboldens them such that the next time around, where there's other folks in similar situations, those people, they themselves can be that CEO, right, to help these other new folks through that process. And so that's where you get a lot of economies of scale with the system, and it's pretty exciting to see.
Scott, I want to circle back to something you said in your opening remarks about your capital raising, the volume you were doing. It sounded like huge numbers in 18, 19, and then COVID hit, and it got harder, it seems like. And I still remember those first couple of months, banks kind of closed their fist a little more, private investors the same. But everything actually turned out like way better than people probably thought that first.
Well, what I would say is, there were certain industries, Christians specifically. I was raising money for some different clients. We were doing manufacturing, and there were supply chain issues, and that really, everybody got alligator arms, right? All the ultra high net worth folks were like, I think real estate's going to drop, so I'm going to save all my dry powder for real estate. So I stopped fundraising in 2020, really from March on, blown away. But it makes sense, right? Because what are our swim lanes? It's automation, it's collaboration software, it's AI, it's machine learning, and platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service specifically. And what happened during that time frame? Well, there was a massive distribution of the workforce, right? Everybody worked from home, and then there was a lot of layoffs, right? A bunch of big Fortune 100 companies did cutbacks. So that doesn't mean their production stops. Their production has to actually improve, and they got to do it with less people. So suddenly automation and collaboration software is mission critical. So just as those companies do really well, the swim lanes that Lotus is in, they do really well during good times. They do even better during downturns. And so the reason we've been able to raise so much money is, yes, of course, one of our companies is being listed. So we'll do a big cash distribution in Q1 for investors that get in now. But we also see other groups that are really attracted to what we do. What I mean by that is we've got a group I'm out of Dallas, Texas. There's a company here in Dallas called Beneficient, and they will pay LPs if they want to get out before, we've got about a 5-year invest and harvest period, right? So we'll start selling companies, in year like 3, 4, and 5, because we've been around for 2 years, this fund. But you can get out early with Beneficient at a 20% discount to net asset value or current value. So we've got liquidity coming out from Beneficient. We're going to do a distribution in Q1. We pay an 8% dividend that we start in August of 2020. That's long-term capital gains. We utilize something called QSBS, qualified small business stock. So when we exit companies, investors don't pay long-term capital gains. They only pay their state taxes. So this has been
they don't pay any
long-term capital gains. Correct. If you buy a company under 50 million and you structure it correctly, and we won't always do this, but this is the reason
right.
we're extending the fund. This is why we're not doing a 3 and a 4 year fund like we did in fund 1 and 2, respectively. We're going to hold for 5 years so that LP investors don't pay long-term capital gains. They just pay state tax.
So you won't pay federal taxes on your
That's
gains.
Right. Think of it's almost like opportunity zones, but instead of a 10-year hold, it's a 5-year hold. And it's something that they put on the infrastructure bill to knock it off, but it didn't that didn't pass. So it's stuck around, and it's about a 30-year-old program, right, Christian?
Yep. Yeah, it's a program by the SBA. It's been around forever. And it's basically to encourage people to invest in small businesses, which makes sense. But talk to your tax professional.
Yeah,
I'm glad I live in Florida then.
That's right. But we've raised most of our money actually out of Austin, believe it or not. That's where a lot of capital has come out of. So we you know, we've been 85% travel. So there's no magic here. It's hard work, but it's getting the message out and explaining to people that they can get an 8% dividend, you know, on an annual basis, paid quarterly. You know, we can get 2.5 times plus their monies each, you know, in a 4-year period. So that's fantastic returns. They can get out early if they want to, and then the QSBS program. So they've built an incredible product, and it's really just sharing the message with people. Everybody likes to jump in, and we've got $100,000 minimum. So there's an opportunity to invest, and we're a commitment fund, which means we pull down 20% a year. So like I said, we're 2 years old. So you would, you know, if somebody wanted to jump in, they'd pay $40,000 today, and then we'd pull down another 20% each respective January at the end of the month of January. So so that's how the program works. So it's a way to sort of stair step your way, dip your toe into private equity for fantastic returns that you might not see in real estate.
Yeah, I know I'm personally investing. I'm super excited. So if anyone's listening today wants more information, you know, you can reach out to me, and I'd gladly connect you with Scott and Christian and the people in their group that can help. So you can email me, dan@danlesniak.com, or send me a message on Instagram, or however you prefer. But putting your fund aside, or this fund aside, what would your advice be to people out there, you know, in any industry? We get a lot of in real estate on this show, but that need to raise capital to expand what they're doing. What do you think the keys are to successfully doing that for the person who's never done it before and is just starting out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really helpful to join different groups. Like there's a group called Tiger 21, which is a $10 million minimum. There's a group called GoBundance Champions, is a $10 million minimum. The three of us actually met in GoBundance, right, in the Champions group. But they also have a group for folks starting out that's elite. I think it's like 1 to 10 million is my understanding. So that's
in these numbers are
net worth.
Net worth, just so people don't think it's like the dues or something.
Sure. Right. Yeah, these are really good organizations. We've raised a lot of money inside those organizations because what you have is a lot of, you know, obviously high net worth, but like-minded individuals that are looking for great opportunities. You have to have a great product. There's no question about that. But after that, you have to be able to market that product to like-minded individuals. And you want to fish in ponds where there's a lot of fish. You want people that have the financial wherewithal and level of sophistication to understand a great opportunity when they see it. We have $1 million minimum on a direct investment, but we lowered it down when I showed up to 100,000, because just as we're bringing innovation to the small business owner, we're putting innovation back in the hands of innovators is our mission with Lotus Fund 3. We also want to give opportunities for folks to get a 40, 50, 60, 70% return IRR on their capital if possible. And it shouldn't be only for the elite $1 million minimum commitment folks. So that's really what we've tried to do. And I think we've done a good job of it, because we've raised most of our money in the 100,000 to 500,000 denominations, frankly.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I mean, in these groups, it's not, you make no mistake. I mean, when you join these groups, it's not about soliciting, right? That's not something that, is encouraged or something that you should really do. But just being within those groups, people are naturally just going to ask, especially if they're interested and they are looking for, deals to invest in, and it just happens organically and naturally. And the only thing I would just add up on top of that is I think for those that are looking for assistance, whether it's fundraising or just in general, one of the things that I should have done earlier on is ask for mentorship, right? So there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help. You just have to ask, and sometimes people don't have time. That's fine. But if you can, depending on your situation, if you can find somebody that has been super successful in what it is that you do, and you ask them to be your mentor, it's amazing how much opportunity or how many potholes you'll avoid, by interacting with them and all that good stuff. And it's a huge time saver. I wish I would have done it. I guarantee you it would have taken me 13 years to sell a company. I probably would have done it in a third of the time if I had, if I had done that. But I had so many, I was just so focused and I had my blinders on that I didn't even think about that until much later. My first mentor I took on in, I think, 2010, 2011. So just to give you an idea, and then all of a sudden, like, things just started happening. So it was great.
Yeah, I think taking the time to go to events, invest in networking groups, both money and time, it really pays off. Yeah, you'll meet people you'll do deals with. You'll learn how they do it. So you'll get energized and motivated by it. There's just so much that happens. And the biggest thing I think is it, like you said, Christian, it compresses time. If you had done it earlier, you probably could have grown it faster, saved years. I hear that from people all the time, and I feel that way myself too sometimes about, some of the businesses and things I've done in real estate, that if I had, gone to this event or had a mentor sooner, not that I regret anything, but it would have happened faster, right? So it's a time saving thing. And it's one of those things too, like, entrepreneurs, real estate agents, developers, like we're super busy, an event comes up, we don't feel like we've got the time to like break away and do it. But then after you go to it, you always come away feeling like, wow, I'm so glad I did that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
So yeah, and we have an event for real estate agents that's coming up. It'll probably be a few weeks after this show actually broadcasts, down in Boca Raton, Florida. So if you're an agent listening, you want to come, talk to agents, or an event where you'll get to network with agents that are doing like 1,000 deals a year, like our team did, or Tat Lindano from Canada. She's got 2.5 million followers on TikTok. She'll be at it. We've got a lender speaking that did $500 million in volume last year. If you want to be around those kind of people for a really, really low price, go to hfasummit.com. And our podcast listeners, if you put in the code podcast25, you get 25% off if there's still tickets left. I don't know if there will be then, but again, it's hfasummit.com and use the code podcast25. Guys, this has been an amazing episode. I've learned a ton. I know the people that have watched it or that will watch it, will listen to it, will learn a ton as well. I always like to end with a hyper fast round. If you guys are ready for some rapid fire questions, we can kind of, you can
do it.
Team them, I guess. All right. What's your biggest piece of advice to a new entrepreneur?
Persistence. Never give
Hustle.
up. What do you say, Christian?
Hustle.
Yeah. Head hard hustle. Get in there.
All right. What's the biggest mistake you see successful entrepreneurs or business people make?
They rest on their laurels. And, we take pride in our work. Our joke at Lotus Fund is, if you don't come in on Saturday, don't bother coming in on Sunday. And we joke about that, but if you're having a great time, then it's not work, right? And work can be part of life. It's just, you focus on the balance, but you gotta work like someone's trying to steal your business, because they are, right? The competition is, for sure. What would you say, Christian?
I would say that a lot of entrepreneurs, get in over their skis. So they build it, in the hopes that something comes, instead of taking a more organic approach, and both personally as well as on the business side. And so, always stay humble, stay within your means, don't go down a path where you're going to spend all this money and hope that something's going to come to fruition. All this revenue is going to come in, right? Do it organically, do it step by step, methodical process. Don't go out and buy the Ferrari just because you got a deal and what have you. Like, save your reserves. Like, keep your reserve tank full, and both on the business side and personal side, because it's super important. You never know when you're going to hit a resistance point, and you're gonna need that to persevere through.
Good.
Love that. What's the biggest challenge you've each had in business, and how'd you overcome it?
I've had, I share my 3 successful exits. I've had 4 horrific failures. So, but people they want to hear about that at the cocktail party, right? They just want to hear about your wins. So, I mean, I've had, we forgot to pay sales tax one time for 2 years, and that was expensive, and just, got bad advice from, I won't name the name of the CPA, but we were told that we didn't have to because it was a consulting company. So, I think the best advice is you've got to know more about your business than everyone. So don't rely on the CPA firm, the law firm. You've got to go deep. You got to deep dive and do your own research, right? And never rely on someone else, because it's your money at the end of the day. So treat it as such, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that in general, it's important to have an open mind, to Scott's point, but trust but verify, right?
Yeah.
If a CPA is telling you one thing, try to get a couple of other opinions. And it's always good to be open-minded, right? It's amazing what happens through the brainstorming process, especially if you're in one of these peer networking groups and so forth and so on. But before you basically make a decision, make sure that it's checked out, with a number of trusted resources, because that's super helpful to avoid, those potholes where you're going to need to, if you don't pay your sales tax, you're going to need to dig into that tank of reserves for sure, because the government always gets paid. So.
Right.
What do you guys do for fun when you're not working?
Exactly. We're
freaking
flyer miles. We collect freaking flyer miles on American Airlines.
We read books on work-life balance, Dan.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we joke around. Travel look, we travel around a lot, most obviously for work, but we work hard, but I always like to think that we play hard too. When you do what you love, you never really work a day in your life, right? So how can you parlay that into, from a hobby perspective? Travel, food, wine. It's definitely something that I enjoy, and the good news is you can do all those things, while you're quote unquote working as well.
All right, last one. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
Good question. Fun 5.
So I think in 5 years, I believe that Lotus will be, $1 billion, fund, in terms of assets under management. I think that, I see a vision where we have Steve Schwartzman always says you got to hire tens, right? So, and right now, I think we have got a really good core of people right now, but we want to continue to hire tens to farm up, folks that are already tens. So they just, it just takes some mentorship and then leadership. But yeah, I see this ultimately speaking where Scott and I don't have to work the 80-hour plus work weeks. We can still do what we love, but in a much more reasonable time, and kind of find that work-life balance that so eludes us right now.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was amazing. Like I mentioned earlier to the listeners and viewers, if you want to kind of learn more about what these guys are doing, you can always reach out to me, Dan at danlesniak.com, or my Instagram, DM the Dan Lesniak there. And is there any place they can go if they want to connect with you guys, or social media, or just in general, that we should give out?
Yeah, we can get the link, to Tom's, Tom's stuff for sure. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Cool. So we'll put a link in the show notes for I guess it's the special placement vehicle that Tom has set up, that is what allows people to get in for less than that $1 million amount. That's correct?
That's right. Yeah. And not to throw out my cell phone, but you can always give me a shout at 214-207-0600.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for being on today. To all of our listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. We hope you got a ton of value out of it. I know I did. And if you did, please leave us some feedback. Let us know in the comments what you liked and did not like, and share this with other people that you think could benefit from hearing or watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the HyperFast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest HyperFast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see more, click right here. And if you want 100 real estate tips from my best-selling book, click right here to download them instantly. And if you're new to this channel, click below to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out. And leave some comments about what you think on the videos.